Slack with Truth Treatment Systems, and I'm here today with Benjamin Knight Fuchs, our creator, the man, the myth, the legend. How are you,
Wow.
Ben?
I don't know about myth and legend. Definitely man.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about myth and legend.
To
And
us estheticians, you are.
is that true? It's
Yes,
funny.
absolutely.
Because I've been doing this for so long. There were no estheticians when I started. There were beauticians and
Beauticians.
cosmeticians. There were a few here and there scattered around. But you know what it was that changed the whole, if I could use the word, no pun intended, complexion of the skincare business was the advent of alpha hydroxy acids. And I don't even think this was like 1991. So, you were a youngin' when alpha hydroxy acids became really popular, but they really revolutionized skincare. And when they came out, I mean, it was like one of the biggest things to ever hit the skincare business after what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today is really the thing that kicked the skincare business into high gear, the anti-aging skincare business. And that is, of course, retinol, which we get a lot of questions about. Yes. So I thought today we should cover this really interesting topic, retinol being super important for anti-aging and wrinkles and acne and a lot of other things too, but also associated with a lot of problems and a lot of confusion. Yes. So let's chat about retinol, Miss Slack.
So as an esthetician myself, I own my own small little boutique spa here in Arkansas. It is always probably like the number one thing I talk about. So, and I'll tell you, Ben, I'm not a huge fan of retinols. I am very reactive to retinols. I've never had a good experience until Truth Treatment Systems, and we'll talk a little bit about why. But I see all the time my clients coming from a derm or from another esthetician, a lot of times just having way too many overactive ingredients on top of the retinol, and they don't quite realize that it is an exfoliant and they're just packing on all these actives one after another.
Right.
But I want to talk a little bit about why we're getting skin reactivity when we're using retinols, and then diving into the different types of retinols.
Okay. So retinol is merely a stimulant, and it does activate certain inflammatory factors and immune factors, but that's how it works. That's how it accomplishes its benefits. You're a bodybuilder, and I developed a lot of my ideas in skincare, as I was telling you, around bodybuilding. What do we do when we exercise? We're actually, when you're lifting weights, okay, you're doing curls. What happens when you do curls? What happens to your biceps when you do curls? You're tearing them up.
Tearing them up, yep.
And what happens in response to that tearing up? You're secreting inflammatory factors. Into cytokines, interleukins, some lipid mediators, various things that cause inflammation. This inflammation, and also you're also dropping the pH in the muscle. So this inflammation, which is associated with the disturbances in the muscle and a drop in the pH, sounds like it's a bad thing. You got, oh my God, you got this inflammation, you got this irritation. But what happens the next day, Hannah? Or the day after?
Rest.
What's that? Well, no, you have to rest. Say you rest. It's true. You do have to rest, and that's very important. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But what happens after you stimulate? You get the inflammation, you get the irritation when you're doing your curls, and then you rest. What happens the next day or after you rest? What's that? Bingo. Growth is linked to stress. Growth is linked to inflammation. We got a culture today where we are so comfortable. We got so much food. We got clothes. We got a roof over our heads. We're so comfortable, but at the same time, we're so sick and obese and cancer-ridden and diabetes-ridden. You see, the human body is designed from millions of years of evolution to thrive under conditions of stress. Stress has to be regarded as a friend, but it has to be understood and used correctly. So this inflammation and this irritation that you're talking about can actually be leveraged the same way we leverage it when we do curls or squats or we do our weightlifting or running or whatever it is that it's our exercise. We're leveraging this stress response. But you said a key word there. You said rest. That's part of understanding how to leverage the stress response. So you got to take days off because your muscles aren't growing when you're doing your curls or you're doing your squats or you're doing your military presses, your bench presses. They're not growing when you're lifting the weights. They're growing the next day when you're sitting on your butt watching TV. That's when your muscles are growing. We call that the refractory phase, rest period. Same thing with skin. When you stimulate the skin, you want to stimulate it and let it be. You want to stimulate it, activate it, turn on all these so-called inflammatory and immune activating chemicals, and let the body do its work.
I think that's very hard for people to do.
It is. It is. We live in a culture where if we're not doing something, we think we're not doing something. We're not doing anything.
I have to force myself to not work out.
Exactly.
Same with exfoliating. If a woman sees something on their face, they have to constantly exfoliate it off. Oh, I must need to exfoliate more. I need to do
Yes,
more. I need to do more. And it's the opposite.
Leaving it be is really hard for us to do. Sitting on our butt watching TV is sometimes hard for us to do. We don't really feel comfortable unless we're in activity, but we don't realize is there's really activity happening when we don't see it happening. Our body is doing the activity. We may not be rubbing off the dead skin, but our body is taking care of it. Our skin is taking care of it. So we have to understand how to leverage the rest period, and learning how to rest. Ironically, it seems like we love to relax and we love to rest. Have you ever been stuck in bed all day, or you can't get out of bed, you're sick and you have to stay in bed, or you're in the hospital and they won't let you out of bed? It feels terrible. You want to do something. You want to move around. We have to learn to leverage the rest response if we're going to maximize the benefits of the stimulation. So that's first of all. Retinol is very stimulating. And in order to take advantage of the the benefits of stimulation, you got to stop. You got to let the body do its work. You got to let the body recover. The refractory phase has to kick in, and that's where the growth occurs. But there's more to it. It's not just rest. In addition to rest, you have to nutriate. And this was the aha experience I had when I started developing skincare products. I was lifting weights, I was working out, but I realized that I wasn't just working out, I was also coming home and doing nutritional supplements. And this was back in the 1980s, and nutritional supplementation is still kind of a weird thing, and you're kind of a health nut if you were doing supplements. And I remember reading the bodybuilding magazines and the muscle building magazines, and we'd see, oh, creatine, oh, whey protein, oh, enzymes, oh, bromelain, oh, we would saw all these supplements. And I got fascinated with nutritional supplementation. Of course, I was also in pharmacy school, so I was studying medicine, literally medicine. I was studying drugs and pharmacology. Pharmacology worked on the body. We also studied nutrition in pharmacy school. So I was starting to get the idea that there was this combination of lifting weights, taking days off, and simultaneously nutriating the body was the key to building muscle and building a body. And it was also there was also a relevance to the skin. We could also take this thing that we knew that was tried and true for building muscle. People have been lifting weights for building muscle since the days of the ancient Greeks. So people knew about exercise building muscle, having an anabolic means building, having an anabolic effect for the body. What I thought, my aha experience was, what if we took those strategies and applied it to the skin? Could we get the same anabolic effects on the skin that we knew we would get on the body by lifting weights, taking days off, and nutriating? And indeed, that was the case. Mm-hmm. So this is how I came up with the concept of treatments of stimulating the skin and then taking days off and then nutriating the skin. I call, by the way, stimulation and taking days off exerrest. Instead of exercise, I call it exerrest, to show that there's two pieces to the puzzle. There's two parts to the exercise process. Exer-rest. There's stress and rest, and they're equally important. You don't want to overstress. You don't want to over-rest. You don't want to understress, and you don't want to under-rest. You want to do it just at the right balance, and at the same time, you want to drive nutrients into the skin and into the body when you're lifting weights. But the same thing can be applied to the skin. So when you say you have irritation from retinol, and it's very common. Number one, you got to take rest periods. Number two, you got to nutriate, and many of us are under-nutriated in general. But many people have skin issues, or are concerned about the skin, or concerned about anti-aging, are oblivious to the concept of nutrition. Mm-hmm. For example, internal essential fatty acids are like nature's aspirin. Mm-hmm. So they have an anti-inflammatory, a calming effect on the skin. Many people, if you're not supplementing, it's almost guaranteed, you're going to be deficient in essential fatty acids, and that will make the skin more sensitized. In fact, essential fatty acid supplementation is one of the secrets to not having sensitive skin. Another internal nutrient that's very important for calming the skin down is vitamin E. Another is probiotics, and the digestive connection to sensitive skin should not be underestimated by the end user or by the skincare professional. In fact, there's a molecule that's secreted out of the intestine when you have something called leaky gut. Have you ever heard of this condition? Mm-hmm. Leaky gut, right? The intestine actually becomes inflamed and things get secreted into the blood. There's a molecule that bacteria make, and the body make, cells of the body make too, that's very pro-inflammatory and almost always associated with sensitivity reactions on the skin. It's called histamine. Now, you've heard of histamine. Most people have heard of histamine. But when people think of histamine, they think of antihistamine. They very rarely think of histamine as being produced in the body in response to various allergic substances in the air. Some people might, but they hardly ever think of histamine as being secreted through the digestive tract, or through the intestine, I should say. And this histamine is produced in response to bacterial secretions or overloaded bacteria. There's a condition called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, where lots of bacteria start to proliferate in the small intestine. These bacteria secrete histamine into the bloodstream, and this will exacerbate skin sensitivities, not to mention other biochemical problems, including female health problems, and even cancer can be associated with this histamine response. And almost always you'll find in people who have sensitive skin, some people say, oh, I'm allergic to everything. Everything I put on my skin makes me break out. And, there are some people who break out from the sun. There are some people who will break out from the shower. They'll take a warm shower and they'll start to get rashes. Or I've talked to women who break out from bra straps. From the, just the pressure of the strap on their.
Well, and you have like graphesthesia. So I had chronic hives where I would get whelps if I touched my skin, and it was all food related. All food related.
Bingo. That's called dermographia, by the way. And some people will sign their name and it'll be raised in their arm. These are classic manifestations of a histamine response, which in turn are classic manifestations of leaky gut following SIBO. Now, I don't want to get too much on a digression about the intestine, although really you have to be an intestinal expert if you're going to be a skin expert. And today's modern esthetician has to do more than the estheticians of the past. And today's modern esthetician has access to more information than estheticians of the past. So today's esthetician can really make a difference in people's skin, whether it's just plain old aging skin, or whether it's acne skin, or whether it's eczema or psoriasis, or whether, as you say, sensitive skin, by understanding the relationship between intestinal health and the skin. So what you're talking about, and that is a real clue. If I was counseling you and you told me, oh, I'm having a response to retinol, and then you said to me, oh, but I have dermographia also, I'd say, bingo, that's a histamine response. No wonder why you're having an issue with retinol. And also, when histamine responses get really severe, or when immune reactions get really severe, you can have something called mast cell activation syndrome. Have you heard of this? MCAS. Mast cells are cells in your body. They're immune cells. They live in your intestine, in your blood, in your connective tissue, in your skin. These mast cells are loaded with histamine and other immune factors. And when you have attacks in the bloodstream through the intestine from bacterial particles, immune particles, food particles, these mast cells will explode and you will become super sensitive to everything. And that's where all of these problems come, like the dermographia and the sun sensitivities. They're not mere histamine responses. These are typically mast cell activation syndrome. And again, I don't want to digress too much, although we can do this on another talk because we're here to talk about retinol. But really, the key point I want to make is retinol should not cause sensitivities when it's done correctly, when it's used correctly. Retinol should not cause skin sensitivities when it's used correctly. And our best-selling product, the truth, by the way, is our Retinol 5% gel. Now, as an esthetician, that's unheard of. Most retinol products are like 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.01%, a trace amount. In fact, as a pharmacist, we have a saying in pharmacy, the dose makes the medicine. I'm very serious about doses. And I'm very serious about formulating for my clients to make sure that we're really making a difference on their skin, and my products and my formulations are really valuable for the client. They're not just like window dressing or something superficial that you're rubbing on the surface of the skin. They're really going to have a benefit on the skin. And so I use high concentrations. But as you said, and as our clients know who are buying our 5% retinol, you can use our 5% retinol, which is really pretty darn incredible. The reason I chose 5% for my formulation, by the way, I don't know if you know this, is because in pharmacy, you probably heard me say this, tretinoin or Retin A, which is the active form of vitamin A, is about 100 times weaker than retinol. And the standard dose of tretinoin or Retin A is 0.05%. Multiply that by 100. Retinol 5% gives our clients, your clients, anybody who's using our products, the benefits of a prescription strength retinol or retinoic acid or vitamin A type product without having to go to the doctor, without having a prescription. So when you use our Truth Retinol 5% gel or Truth Retinol 1% gel, you're getting an equipotent formulation that's the same potency as a prescription drug. But here's the thing, and you kind of alluded to this. A lot of the reactions that people have with retinol are not just the retinol that's in the product, but the other ingredients in the product. You see, formulation is not as simple as just putting an active ingredient in a base. This is why the skincare business is so popular and why there's so much DIY and there's so many skincare companies out there. It's because basically they take a base, which is like a vehicle, they think of it like a cake, and they put a little chocolate in it. And they say, here's my chocolate cake. Or they say, here's my vanilla cake, or my banana cake, or my carrot cake. And all it is just a cake with a little carrot in it, a little banana in it, or a little chocolate in it. That's how skincare is done. You take a base, which is basically wax and oil and emulsifying agents and preservatives, and fragrances and emollients maybe, and this and that and the other. a chemical concoction. Some of these chemical concoctions can have 80 to 100 different ingredients in them. And then they'll throw a little retinol in there. And they'll say, here's our retinol cake. Here's our retinol product. Well, intelligent formulation requires much more than that. And unfortunately, cosmetic chemistry is not always intelligent formulation. Cosmetic chemists make cosmetics, they make them white and pretty, but they don't necessarily understand how to balance out active ingredients with vehicles and carriers in order to create the most effective and the most gentle product. That's where I come in. That's what pharmacy is about. Pharmacy is about understanding how to deliver medicine without having toxicities or side effects. And that's how I like to formulate. So our retinol gels, and I'm so glad to hear that you can use it with your history sensitivities, is retinol with a transdermal delivery vehicle, drives that retinol deep with vitamin C. And that's the trick. There's 25% fat-soluble vitamin C in our retinol product. That's in effect, that's even more than a vitamin C product. Most vitamin C containing products aren't going to have 25% fat-soluble, premium vitamin C that never breaks down. But the combination of retinol and vitamin C are exquisite. And I'll tell you why here in a second. But in addition to the vitamin C and the retinol, we also have a transdermal base, as I said, and that's it. Nothing else. There's no preservatives. There's no fragrances. There's no emollients. There's no emulsifiers. There's nothing. And that's how formulation should be, in my opinion, as a pharmacist. You get your medicine from the drugstore. You want the medicine. You don't need smell and fragrance and preservatives and coloring and texturizers and whatever else you put in your medicine. You want the darn medicine. And so when I'm making skincare products, I'm making them like medicine, with just the dose, with the medicine, with the active ingredient, plus something to get that active ingredient to the living cells. And that simplicity in the formulation gives the consumer, especially the sensitive skin consumer, the gentleness, the kindness that will allow them to get the advantages, which we'll talk about here in a second, of retinol without having to deal with the toxicity. Now, vitamin C or side effects or adverse reactions or irritation. Vitamin C, man, that's a rock star. Vitamin A is a rock star too. Retinoids they're the quintessential anti-aging ingredient, not just, by the way, topically, but also internally. You know, vitamin A taken internally is one of the best things you could do for leaky gut. It helps patch up a leaky gut. So in addition to being anabolic for the skin, it's anabolic for muscle, it's anabolic for bone, it's anabolic for the line of the intestine. It's also an immune boosting vitamin. It's an anti-cancer vitamin. It's just a phenomenal vitamin. But vitamin C is also a phenomenal vitamin. Now, vitamin C has a lot of problems associated with it, as does, by the way, retinoids or retinol. But we've addressed those problems by using a fat-soluble form of vitamin C. In fact, some people will tell you, oh, you should never use, you may have heard this, oh, no, vitamin C and retinol, they don't go together. You should never use the two. And even skincare professionals I've heard say this. Even physicians, medical professionals will say this. Not true.
Well, they're talking about the water.
Bingo.
Yeah.
They're talking about ascorbic acid, which is the water-soluble form, the cheap form.
Yeah.
And I get so upset, you know, as a formulator who cares about my patients. Pharmacists care about our patients. The cosmetic chemists at the skincare companies, they don't see their patients. They're in a lab somewhere, or even worse, they're a marketer or a bookkeeper who's decided to be in the skincare business, who decided, oh, I'm going to be in the skincare business and I'll just make skincare products, la, la, la. No, pharmacy's different. We have a relationship with our with our patients. We love our patients. And vitamin C is so kind and so protective that when it is in the right format, not the cheap kind, not the ascorbic acid, water-soluble version that turns brown and it breaks down, it's drying and it's irritating, when it's in the right format, not only does it impart a complete spectrum of anti-aging benefits, including stimulation of collagen and upregulation of skin fats and better keratinocytes and skin barrier and antioxidant protection. There's like 10 or 12 different skin health benefits for vitamin C. But when it's used with retinol, it calms down the retinol response, the irritation. So you get the benefits, the anabolic benefits, the building benefits without as much irritation with fat-soluble vitamin C. Not only that, but retinol helps fat-soluble vitamin C penetrate. So each help each other. They work synergistically. Retinol and fat-soluble, stable, not the water-soluble kind, fat-soluble vitamin C are synergizing partners. Vitamin C makes the retinol work better, and the fat-soluble vitamin C makes the retinol work better, and the retinol makes the fat-soluble vitamin C work better. And this is what accounts for the extreme gentleness, kindness, and as well as the really dramatic skin health benefits you get with our Truth Retinol gel. And I have a few different retinol products, but our basic ones are the Truth Retinol 1% and 5% gels. I also love our serums too, by the way, which are even kinder and even gentler for people who really have a problem. I don't know if you've used our 1% or 5% serum yet?
1%.
1% serum. That's even gentler.
We started slow. We started slow and moved up.
That's another thing I was going to tell you is that's another thing you want to do with retinol is you want to start slow. If you just, when you start lifting weights, say, right, you don't get on the bench and start benching 225 pounds. You start off with 25 pounds. And then the next day you're up to 30. And the next week you're up to 45. And the next week you're up to 90. And, you gradually build up. And your goal really when you're working out is to get to the point where you can lift more and more weight. Because the more weight you're lifting comfortably, the stronger you're going to get, the more anabolic you're going to be. So when we're lifting weights, we're working out, our job is to get the body stronger so it can lift more weight, so it can have more resistance. And the same thing is true about the skin. When you start a retinol program, if you've never used it before, you want to start off light. And we do have several retinol formulations that are very, very beginner formulations, if you will, our dermal defense, our routine enhancing serum. These are very small doses of retinol to get your skin used to the retinol. While you're getting your skin used to the retinol, taking days off, you're also making sure you're doing your nutrition. And if you have leaky gut or food sensitivities, you want to always address those. Always want to use nutritional supplementation. And you always want to start off not only with a low dose, but with low frequency. Start off once every 2 weeks. Start off twice a month. And then go into maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, then 3 times a week, and gradually adjust the dose upwards or the frequency of the dose upwards. And it's always helpful to do it with an esthetician or a skincare professional who can guide you through the process. Your goal is to get to the point where you can use a high-strength retinol more frequently. So the idea that retinol is this horrible ingredient, I hear people saying this irritating ingredient, thins the skin, which by the way it does, but then the skin gets thicker in response to that. All the negative stuff I hear about retinol out there in the marketplace kind of hurts my feelings a little bit as a skincare professional and as a healthcare professional who's dedicated to helping my clients have better skin. Now, along the same lines, now there's these alternatives to retinol, natural alternatives. And I know some of the producers of these natural alternatives. One in particular, I don't want to mention what it is. It was developed by a friend of mine, and he's been bugging me to try to use this ingredient. And I'm like, dude, I want retinol. I want my clients have the real deal, not the fake stuff. And it turns out that retinol is a retinoid. The retinoids are molecules that all activate the retinol receptor. So let's talk real quickly about the chemistry of retinol. So you have a cell. It's always about the cell. That's where you need to be. If you're going to change the health of the tissue or change the health of the body, you need to be at the level of the cell. And the cell has little openings, or not openings, but spaces on the outside part of it. We call them receptors. Retinoids are a family of molecules that are found throughout nature that will sit on that retinoid receptor and activate the cell. What's more is retinoids will actually get pulled into the cell itself, into the nucleus where the genetics are. This is really where the effects of retinol occur. And it actually gets an escort, a chaperone, from the outside into the nucleus where it can interact with the genes, the genetics, to turn them on, to make things happen. In biochemistry, we say it's an epigenetic factor. And again, I don't want to get into too much of a digression, but epigenetics is a science of turning on genes. Just because you have a gene doesn't mean it's going to get turned on. Epigenetics is a science of how you turn on the gene, and retinoids are epigenetic in that nature, in that fashion. They turn on the genes. Okay, so here's the thing. Retinoids are a huge family. Vitamin A is a retinoid. It's one of the retinoids, and vitamin A is only found in animal foods or animal products. It's only made by animals. Plants do not make vitamin A. It's only made by animals. However, there are retinoids that are made by plants. They're kind of similar to vitamin A, and they will sit on that receptor. They're not going to be as powerful as vitamin A, but they will sit on the receptor, and there's a whole slew of them found in nature of these retinoid molecules. There are also these days retinoids that are made synthetically as drugs. and they're used in doctor's offices. And again, they don't activate the retinoid receptor quite like vitamin A does, but they will give you some retinoid effects. But if you really want the retinol benefits, which I'll tell you about here in a second, you got to use the real deal. If you retinoid benefits, you got to use the real deal, and that's vitamin A. Vitamin A comes in three main forms. One is called retinol palmitate, and vitamin A is in the body, I should tell you. It's not a vitamin really, even though we call it a vitamin. It's a hormone. That's why it sits on that receptor. Most vitamin molecules, they'll help. They're assistants. They facilitate chemical reactions. Vitamin A and vitamin D, those are the two vitamins that are hormones. They don't merely facilitate reactions. They turn them on. They make them happen. They are hormones, meaning hormone comes from the Greek word hormeo, which means I make things happen. That's literally what it means in Latin, to make things happen. I turn things on. Hormeo means I activate. And hormones activate, and vitamin A and D are no mere vitamins, even though we call them vitamins. They're activators. So vitamin A activates things. It makes things happen. In the body, it's found. It's found in three main forms. One is a transport form, which is the form that's carried around the bloodstream. That's called retinol palmitate. Retinol palmitate, when you use it topically, will give you some benefits, but not really a lot. You'll see it in the cheaper skincare products. In fact, I'm starting to see it advertised now as pro-retinol. There's some companies that realize that they can call it pro-retinol. Pro means it's a precursor. It gets turned into retinol. And that's true. Retinol palmitate can get turned into retinol. And I never thought of doing this, and I'm going to start doing it. But this company thought of, hey, we're going to call it pro-retinol, so we can take advantage of everybody's good feelings about retinol and not have to use retinol. This is the sneakiness of the skincare business. So retinol palmitate is now being called pro-retinol by some skincare companies because it gets turned into retinol. Very weak, has some benefits. It can get turned into retinol by enzymes in the skin, but it's nowhere near the same potency as retinol. The most active form of vitamin A is so active that it requires a prescription. You can't get it over the counter. And it is really active. Of course, that's called retinoic acid, also known brand name tretinoin. And you'll find it in a product called Retin A. And that is a really, really effective active ingredient. And Retin A and tretinoin and retinol, or retinoic acid, are the only FDA-approved ingredient or product that is approved, has an indication for anti-aging and wrinkle reduction and improvement of photo damage. No other ingredient is officially has an official indication for anti-aging and improving photo damage other than retinoic acid. So that's how powerful retinoic acid is. It does require a prescription. Now, I knew about retinol. I'm a pharmacist, and we studied retinoic acid at length. We studied a lot of retinoic acid, and we studied a lot of skincare and cosmetic formulations in pharmacy school. So I knew how powerful retinoic acid was, and I'd seen it work firsthand in my pharmacy. Not just, by the way, for helping folks with photo damage and aging, but also with acne, which we'll talk about here in a second, because retinoids are also very important for acne patients, both internally and topically. So I wanted my patients to have the advantage of this wonderful ingredient, but I didn't want them to have to deal with a doctor, and that's why I came up with retinol. Retinol gets turned into retinoic acid. It's much weaker, about 100 times weaker, but it does get turned into retinoic acid, the active form of vitamin A. Plus, retinol has its own benefits on its own, independent of its conversion into retinoic acid. So what are some of those benefits? Well, there's so many reasons why you want to use retinoids topically. For one thing, they're anti-wrinkle. They promote the proliferation of skin cells, i.e. keratinocytes. They strengthen the epidermis. They strengthen the stratum corneum. Ironically, for people who have sensitive skin, if you use retinol correctly, you're going to have less sensitive skin because you have a stronger barrier, you have a thicker epidermis. Of course, you got to start, like we said, you got to start slowly. You got to take rest periods. You got to work on digestive health. But it turns out that retinol actually gives you a stronger epidermis, actually gives you a stronger stratum corneum in the long run, much like lifting weights gives you stronger biceps or quads or whatever muscle you're working. It also helps prevent water loss, which is really interesting. It also helps stimulate the production of lipids, which is really interesting, fats. It also helps stimulate the production of hyaluronic acid, which is really interesting. Why? Because people will think that retinol will make your skin drier, which it does in the short run, but in the long run, by virtue of its ability to protect against water loss and stimulate the production of fats and high hyaluronic acid. It'll give you moisture, softer, really hydrated skin, not fake moist skin like when you put some waxy oil moisturizer. You know my take on moisturizers are biggest BS word in the world of skincare is moisturizers, and that's another story. This gives you real moisturization because it allows your skin to moisturize itself. Retinol will also protect your collagen against degradation, against breakdown, has a collagen protecting benefit. So in addition to stimulating collagen production, it protects your collagen. It also helps downregulate the activity of enzymes called MMPs they're metalloproteinases, MMPs they call these things, or MMPs they call them, matrix metalloproteinases. And these enzymes destroy collagen. Retinol inhibits and suppresses the activity of these enzymes. Retinol also is very important for the maturation of skin cells. And this is where the benefits for acne and for also for psoriasis come in. Retinol has an ability to support maturation of skin cells. When you have inflammation, immune activity in the skin, cells don't mature properly and they end up dividing forever. They don't stop dividing. When they divide and they divide and divide, you get plaques on the surface of the skin. That's called psoriasis, and retinoids are used to treat psoriasis. When you get rapid cell division or hyperproliferation, too much cell division inside a follicle, you get clogged pores, you get acne. And retinoids are also used to treat acne for this reason. Retinoids are also important for how cells stick together. It's called cohesion. And again, that has a barrier strengthening property. Retinols also have an immune controlling benefit. So while they stimulate things, they can also have a calming effect on the immune system. They're also used to treat cancer internally for lung cancer. And they're one of the most important things you could do for something called actinic keratosis, or AK. You probably heard of AK. AK is pre-skin cancer. And retinol is one of the best things you can do to treat pre-skin cancer. If you go to the doctor, they'll give you something called 5-fluorouracil or 5-FU, which is basically chemotherapy, really nasty topical ingredient. Retinol does the same thing. And instead of getting toxicity, the toxicity associated with 5-FU, 5-fluorouracil, and all the irritation, even the burning that can happen with topical application of this ingredient, you get anti-aging benefits and skin conditioning benefits and exfoliating benefits, plus the AK preventing benefits. You can see why I'm so in love with this ingredient. Retinol stimulates the skin cells, it stimulates the fibroblasts that make the collagen and the hyaluronic acid. Retinol also has an anti-pigmentation effect. It lightens the skin. It helps balance out the production of melanin. It also supports remodeling of the dermal fibers in the dermis, so you get a stronger, healthy dermis. It's anti-comedone, that is anti-acne. It helps improve sebaceous secretions for people who are dealing with sebaceous hyperplasia issues. There are so many incredible benefits with this wonderful, wonderful ingredient. It breaks my heart that people are intimidated or afraid or not taking advantage of this ingredient. The best way to do it is in topical products, topical leave-on products. You can apply it directly. You can apply retinol directly to zits, pimples. You can apply it directly to dark spots. You can apply it directly to wrinkles and fine lines and spot treat wrinkles and fine lines, spot treat hyperpigmentation or dark spots, spot treat acne blemishes. And bonus, because it lightens the skin and also helps eliminate comedones or pimples, it's great for people who are dealing with post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Those people get dark spots after their pimple heals. If you use retinol, you'll minimize the likelihood of hyperpigmentation after the inflammation, and you'll also help improve the comedones. Now, the instability of retinol is the really downside on it. In addition to the irritation that it can cause, it is an unstable molecule. Using vitamin C with the retinol helps improve the stability, but it does break down quickly. Retinoic acid breaks down super quickly. Retinoid palmitate doesn't break down hardly at all. Retinol will break down. So you want to use it. We sell our retinol products. We tell people to use it within a year after they buy it. It'll start to break down after about a year. And that is the one problem. But we figured that out using vitamin C, and by minimizing the ingredients in our formulation, we figured out how to extend the life of retinol. It is a must-have skincare ingredient, topical skincare ingredient. Also internally, it's very important for the skin, and I'm big on internal nutritional supplementation, as you know, but topically, it's a must-have topical ingredient if you are serious about anti-aging your skin, reconditioning your skin, exfoliating. And by the way, I forgot to mention, it's a wonderful exfoliating agent. Really, overall, a broad spectrum skin health benefits. It's a must-have, but you got to know how to use it correctly.
So if we are using a retinol, let's say every 3 days, because we've built our skin up, are we still exfoliating with an AHA? Are we taking turns with them?
No, I would do both. Now, you may not want to do them in the same day,
right?
But I would still do both. AHAs are much gentler than retinol. And unless you doing a full-blown skin peel, if you're using like a 5% pH 3.0 or so alpha hydroxy acid, like our AHA energizing exfoliator, you can do both. And by exfoliating before you use your retinol, if you can handle it, you'll actually get better penetration of the retinol. And of course, it's always all about penetration.
If you can handle it.
If you can handle it, you got to be savvy, you got to be smart. You know what? You're a workout lady. You go to the gym, you work out. If somebody came to you and said, I went to the gym, I worked out with weights, I got so sore the next day, I am never going to the gym again. What would you say? You'd say, that's ridiculous.
You're weak.
No. You say you gotta do it right. You gotta do it intelligently. And that's why we have estheticians. And that's why we have skincare professionals who can help guide you through the process. But once you understand how to use the process, it's not rocket science, really. It's just listening to your body and understanding when to use, when not to use, what form to use. Listen to your esthetician. But once you understand how to use it, you can take the ball and run with it, because it really is not rocket science. And don't underestimate the importance of internal nutritional supplementation, particularly with essential fatty acids, also vitamin B3, niacin, which is very important for the barrier, and also something called phospholipids, which are found in eggs as well as in grains and beans. Those can help strengthen the skin barrier. Dairy, organ meats have phospholipids in them. And always, 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 when you have problems with sensitive skin or irritation, backtrack to the intestine and leaky gut and what I call messed up gut bacteria, or what is technically called dysbiosis. And today's modern esthetician, as well as today's savvy consumer, has to understand the relationship between intestinal health and skin health.
Well, and that's the problem with the American diet, is everything is so high in linoleic acid that people don't quite realize.
Worse. It's even worse than linoleic acid. It's fried linoleic acid.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I whenever I talk about food, I always feel like, I'm like your mom saying, eat your vegetables, and I always hate to do that, but you have to. If you're going to be taking care of your skin health or your body's health, you have to. And it's these fried, processed omega-6 fats, polyunsaturated fats, that are so problematic. And ironically, these are the oils that are found in skincare products, the omega-6 oils, the soy oil, the corn oil, the seed oils, exactly. And people, even the exotic oils like macadamia nut oil and hazelnut oil, these are very rich in omega-6s, linoleic acid, and they're very unstable. And not only are they unstable first of all, they're unstable right when the skincare company buys them from the oil manufacturer. They're buying a cosmetic grade, not a food grade. And the cosmetic grade oil is already started to break down. It's already oxidized. It's already rancid. That's really what rancidity is, oxidation. And so even before it's even been put in the product, it's already broken down. Then you heat it, you put it in the product, it's broken down further. You put it on your skin, it's broken down further. It contacts the sun, oxygen, it oxidizes. I never use vegetable oils in my omega-6 vegetable oils, or really any vegetable oils in our skincare products. I'll use jojoba oil sometime, which of course is not really an oil, even though we call it an oil. But these polyunsaturated vegetable oils, which can be very important taken internally if they're stable, are really, really problematic. And I never use them in skincare products, and they can exacerbate irritation. And if you have a retinol product with a polyunsaturated omega-6 oil, linoleic acid, as you say, you're really asking for trouble.
Yeah. And that's what you're going to find over the counter most of the times at your local stores. That's what you're going to be finding. I have tons of clients coming in using those things, and I just very politely let them know they're not doing anything. If anything, they're doing harm. So just stop it. But they see that word retinol and they think they're going to be doing something good.
Yes, they don't see the whole ingredient. They don't see the whole ingredient deck, the whole balance of all the ingredients. And that's why where you come in. That's where the esthetician comes in.
When I'm doing a consultation with my clients, just so other estheticians know, and I have created a consultation form for Truth Treatment Systems if anyone needs one. but I get a full list of vitamin supplements, medications that they're taking, and I want a full list of whatever products that they're using. And I will have that beforehand, and I will look at those ingredients, and I don't even need to read them if the list is this long. If the list is this long, it's already stopped.
Why would anybody want to put 80 to 100 different ingredients on their skin? Literally, there are products that have 80 different ingredients in them. They're so egregious. They're so offensive to the skin and to me personally as a skincare professional.
Okay, so a couple more questions really quickly. Sure. If a client comes in and they are having very reactive, as they would say, since they're a sensitive skin type, and they're wanting to start a retinol, what would the first things you would do? I mean, I would be pushing omegas. I'd be asking what vitamins and supplements, but what would we do skincare wise? Let's say they're on too many active ingredients or not good ingredients at all in their products.
And they're breaking out and they get rashy or irritation.
Or peely, or, a lot of times.
Peely is not necessarily a problem because that's going to stimulate new tissue. But the rashy, redness, the inflammation.
Burning.
Burning, right? So the couple things. First of all, you want to start off low dose. And by low dose, I'm talking 0.2, 0.3%.
Like, but when their skin is this way, we can go ahead and start them on a
low dose. You mean if they're already inflamed when they come to you? I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, you want to calm the skin down. Okay. So the best way to calm the skin down, if people are willing to do it, and not everybody's willing to do it, is to fast. And by the way, intermittent fasting or fasting, you're reading about it every day as far as its health benefits, and for good reason. Because it is one of the most powerful, not only overall health strategies, Hannah, but bodybuilding strategies. You will actually build muscle when you fast intelligently or when you practice caloric restriction intelligently. Obviously, if you're working out, you need more calories and you got to have nutrition for sure. But occasional fasting will actually turn on anabolism. And that's actually built into the body because think about it from an evolutionary perspective, when there were no calories or when you were starving, you'd have to go out and hunt. You'd have to go out and forage. So the body developed a system where when calories were scant, it would turn on anabolism. It would actually even turn on energy production with ketogenesis to burn fat. So fasting can actually turn on fasting, I should say, can actually turn on energy production and turn on anabolism. Now you gotta be a little careful because you don't want to be starving. You don't want to be deficient in nutrients, but understanding how to be careful and sort of artistic about how you input calories and energy into the system can actually be very anabolic and very building. Nonetheless, if somebody does have inflammation, irritation, first thing I would do is I start working on the digestive system. Fasting tends to calm everything down, not just for the skin, but also for people who are dealing with autoimmune diseases, inflammatory diseases, pelvic diseases in women, or reproductive issues. All of these symptoms from all of these conditions will tend to subside when you fast, as that stream of toxicity that's getting into the bloodstream through a leaky gut is going to stop. So I have them fast. Then when they start eating again, note your skin's reactions and your digestive reactions to specific foods. And it helps to write everything in a food diary. And then you start to eliminate foods. Then there are nutrients that you can take that support intestinal health and support digestive health. For one, probiotics, good bacteria, very important. For another, as we talked about earlier, vitamin A can help strengthen the intestinal lining, as can collagen peptides. Also, digestive enzymes can be important for a couple of reasons. Number one, they improve the body's ability to break down proteins, which can be, if they're not broken down correctly, can be very stimulating for the immune system or activating for the immune system. But also, digestive enzymes taken on an empty stomach are anti-inflammatory. And they can actually calm the skin down, as well as calming down joint inflammation or overall immune inflammation in the body. So digestive enzymes with food and on an empty stomach. Stomach acid, believe it or not, in terms of not just stomach acid, but apple cider vinegar taken with meals can actually help support the activity of digestive enzymes and have an antibacterial effect for this condition called SIBO. Bile salts also can have an antibacterial effect for SIBO. There's a product called Hyperimmune Egg, which is made by a company called Youngevity. I don't know if you heard of Youngevity. They're a company that I've been endorsing for many years. They make a product called I-26, which kills bacteria in the intestine for people who are dealing with SIBO, which can help with leaky gut. Then there are also antihistamines, not Benadryl antihistamines, but nutritional antihistamines. Vitamin C is an antihistamine. Zinc is an antihistamine. Endocannabinoids, THC and CBD, have antihistamine properties. Melatonin has antihistamine properties. So there's lots of ways that you can calm down histamine. There's a wonderful enzyme which is made by made in the body, but some people don't make enough of it, called DAO, diamine oxidase, which also has antihistamine properties. So all of these are all places that I would work on the inflamed patient, or the patient who has inflammation, skin inflammation, skin irritation, redness, rosacea, any kind of skin activity, skin immune activity. These are all places that I would work before I put them on retinol. Then once the skin's a little bit calm, then you can start your retinol program, starting with a very low dose retinol in combination with fat soluble vitamin C. Of course, you can get that from us. Our Truth routine enhancing serum is a great place to start. Low dose retinol, and then gradually build yourself up into a 1% and then into a 5%, playing with the frequency, maybe once a month, twice a month, going into 3 times a month, then once a week, then twice a week, kind of playing around with the frequency until you find a sweet spot that you like. And our retinol serums, our retinol 1% and retinol 5% serum, are extra gentle for people who really, really want mildness with their retinol and still getting the benefits of retinol. Go with our retinol serums.
Over the years as an esthetician, I've heard multiple times that we should take breaks when using a retinol. And by that, I mean 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months
you don't
on,
want 3 months.
3 months off.
No, not 3 months off. You don't want 3 months off. It doesn't hurt to take a week off, though, or a couple weeks off. But there's really no need for it, because the skin will calm down enough between maybe 3 days or 4 days. So you're not going to get that much more benefit by taking 2 weeks off, or a week off even, than you would get for taking 3 or 4 days off, because the skin's calming down enough in 3 or 4 days. And I forgot to mention, there are internal supplements you can take specifically for the skin that will strengthen the barrier and calm the skin down. Taken internally, and that's, of course, essential fatty acids, which I call nature's aspirin, which have aspirin-like effects, anti-inflammatory effects, particularly omega-6. And by the way, omega-3, and omega-6 has a reputation for being pro-inflammatory, and omega-6 or omega-3s are called anti-inflammatory. You need inflammation for healing. So don't be too hard on omega-6s, because omega-6s start the healing process. Where you want to be careful with omega-6s is when they're rancid, oxidized, or out of balance. Yes, that's where you really want to be careful with the omega-6s. But omega-6s turn on the healing process by activating omega-3 responses. And so they're both important. And I always recommend a good EFA supplement. I like Udo's Blend or Longevity's Ultimate EFAs. There's a lot that you can get. Vitamin E has a calming effect on the skin. Vitamin B3, niacin, has a calming effect on the skin. Phospholipids that we talked about earlier, they can strengthen the barrier and have a calming effect on the skin as well. So taking care of intestinal and digestive health, taking care of skin nutrition, internal, using retinol and other topical vitamins like topical vitamin C, as well as vitamin E topically. Vitamin K can have a nice wound healing benefits, can contribute wound healing benefits. Vitamin D is really important for the skin. All of the vitamins. I like to think of skincare as being topical nutrition. Yep. I think using skincare products as an opportunity to dose your skin with nutrition the way we should be taking nutritional supplements internally.
I think a lot of times as estheticians, one, we only know what we know. Now we have information out there. It is all available for us. But I do feel like we are always just trying to treat issues from the outside in. And the more we start to understand that we can really make a difference from the inside out and then maintain it from the outside.
Yes. You know, we always say, oh, the skin is the body's largest organ. It's an organ. It's like your liver. It's like your intestine. It's like your spleen. It's like your lungs. It's like your heart, like your brain. It deserves a full-fledged organ treatment, which means nutrition, food, and nutritional supplements. And they're both important, by the way, both food and nutritional supplements. They work together. I
always tell my clients that your skin is kind of the dumping grounds. It's where it's telling you something's wrong inside. And
That's
if you,
so true.
I mean, and they have to put the work in, you know, a lot of times it's much harder for us to change our eating habits. You know, a bodybuilder can make it look pretty easy, but it is difficult to change your eating habits and do those elimination diets.
Oh yeah.
And you have to kind of push your clients like, do you really want good skin results? Because this is what it's going to take.
That's right. And I love how you said dumping ground, because that's literally what it is. The blood is where the toxicity is. It will dump those toxins out in the skin and in the connective tissue in general. The connective tissue is the great dumping ground. It literally, like you said, of toxicity from the blood. You know, when I was a kid, I used to have a messy room. I was kind of like one of those slobby kids, you know, and my mom would come in and say, Benji, you clean up your room. And I would have this really foolproof method for cleaning my room. As hideous as what, in like a minute, 2 minutes. What did I do? I stuck everything under the bed.
Shove it under the bed. Yep.
And that's what the body does. It shoves everything under the bed, except in the bed, to the body, the bed is the connective tissue. And the dermis, of course, is filled with connective tissue. So it's a very short jump from toxicity in the blood, which of course comes in through the intestine, to dermal toxicity and immune and inflammatory reactions.
So I know we've been on here way too long.
We've been on a long time. I know.
Last question.
Yes.
If we who carry your products, we have someone that comes in with reactive skin and we're wanting to put them on a retinol, what are the products you want them on?
Calm the skin down first and foremost. Use our omega-6 healing cream, which is one of the most calming topical skin care products you'll ever use. It's actually designed as a burn cream. You can use it for first aid as much as for calming the skin, as much as for anti-aging or for moisturization. Great on your lips. So calm the skin down. If you have to have the client do a fast, really education, because a lot of clients don't realize that their sensitive skin is coming from the intestine. So explaining, doing a food diary, elimination diet, topically omega-6 healing cream, less is more. When the skin is inflamed and it's activated, calm it down. Don't put anything on the skin, with the exception, like I say, of omega-6 healing cream, maybe our high hyaluronic honey cleanser, which also has a calming effect on the skin. And then gradually start to add in, as the skin's calming down, gradually, carefully start to add in the more stimulating ingredients like your retinol and like your alpha hydroxy acids.
Yep. Awesome.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, Hannah. That was great.
Yes, this was great. Great information. I hope it helped a lot.
Here, we were live, and so look, we got somebody from Kenya.
Yep.
Do you see this?
I do. Yep.
Thank you, Eric. I hope all that makes sense. Why is Retin A Micro so expensive? Real quick, Retin A Micro is an unnecessary product. They figured out that if they encapsulate the retinol or protect the retinol a little bit, it'll be less aggressive to the skin. And so it costs a lot of money. It's also a prescription drug. Go with retinol. If you're using Retin A Micro, I would suggest that you start off with our dermal defense 0.3% and then gradually work your way up. You'll get the vitamin C too, of course. And that's another benefit to using our retinol products versus Retin A Micro or any other Retin A prescription product.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
So we're going to be doing this quite often, right? We're going to be doing this regularly.
Olga. I didn't know we had people on here live, so I didn't even.
Yeah, they're watching.
Okay.
But if you guys have any topics you want us to discuss or any questions, go ahead and comment on these platforms and we will respond as quickly as we can.
Okay. And you know what? If you guys send an email to Hannah at truthtreatmentsystems.com, and she'll forward to me, I'm putting together a little PowerPoint on this talk, and I will I'll send that out to you. It'll be a brief thing, but it'll be nice, and especially for an esthetician, it'll be nice for you to have as a reference.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, Hannah, great to see you.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We have a founders meeting tomorrow.
That's right, we do.
And then we'll do this. Let's plan on doing these regularly.
All right. Thank you guys for watching.